Hey y'all, it's the world's greatest dad coming at you this afternoon to do some dad stuff. The project we are tackling is replacing our trimmer head on our Husqvarna weed whacker. Now in this video, we're going to show you how to get the right replacement parts, how to remove the old head, how to properly string this thing and put it back on. So with that being said, let's get it. Now there's a couple different reasons you might look to replace your trimmer head. In our case here, our little blue kind of tap and go button has broken off the top, and also the inside where we wind around our string has busted also. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is identify the type of Husqvarna weed whacker you have. As you can see here, we've got a 128C over here and a 128LD there. Now in my case, this Husqvarna T25 tap and go trimmer will actually replace on both of these heads. I'll go ahead and turn this thing around, and you're going to see it shows us all the different brands and models that this replaces. Now there is our 128C and there is our 128LD. Now I wanted to bring out a couple different styles of Husqvarna weed whackers today because you remove the heads completely differently. Now on my 128C, it's kind of this rounded version right here. All I'm going to really need is some channel locks or a large crescent wrench. On my 128LD here, which is kind of this long straight model, you're actually going to need some kind of long thing. You could use a long screw, a long nail, or even a screwdriver. So let's go ahead and remove the head from our 128LD here. Now you're going to see on this that there is a little hole right there, and you can either use a screwdriver or we could use a long nail or a screw. What we want to do is we want to put that down in that hole, and it's going to kind of lock the head where then it can't freely turn. Now what we're going to go ahead to do to loosen this is we're going to turn this counterclockwise, and our head will come off in these couple pieces. Now, if you have a version like our 128C here, this is going to be a little bit easier because we're just going to need some channel locks or a large crescent. And basically we put that around this top nut, and then we're going to turn clockwise, not counterclockwise, a little bit opposite. And that will also come off with two pieces. And here's how those two different units look. You'll see with our 128C, just a plastic piece here. That's how our nut looks. Kind of just a flat side on that. And then with our 128LD, we have more like a gear type thing that slides in. We actually have some grease on this as well. Now for my replacement today, I probably could have got away with just purchasing this inner blue piece, but this thing's pretty run down. And if I open it up as well, you'll see that my spool here has kind of broke off those little spots that secure where the string line goes. So I just ended up buying the T25, which is going to replace everything. So let's go ahead and unbox this and show you everything that you're going to get. Of course, we've got our replacement spool right there. Got a little instruction sheet. There's going to be 2 additional nuts. Now the reason I decided to cut this video is because they give you some instructions, but all this instructions tell you is how to load your trimmer line. There's nothing that tells you anything about taking off the head, what tools you need, anything like that. And even on our box, this thing's pretty blank other than telling you what models that this will fit. And as you can see, our brand new one compares very nicely, exactly the same as our old ones. Of course, there are some knockoffs that aren't Husqvarna brand, but for as long as you use these things, I'd suggest just spending a few extra bucks going with the actual Husqvarna. Now, if you're changing out the head on a 128LD or a model similar to that, then you're good to go. You'll see the profile on both of these is exactly the same with kind of that recessed nut right there. So you can just put this thing on and you're good. Now, if you've got a 128C or a model like that, you'll notice that while this nut is recessed, this one is even with that. And that's why they throw in these additional nuts right here. But we actually got to get inside this thing, take the blue button off, and replace that. Now, before we do the change out, it's important to know which nut we actually need. If you take a close look at those, you'll see that they're each labeled. One's a 6 and one's a 4. If you don't pay attention to this, you might not know which one to put in. So how you figure that out is go to your actual weed whacker and try to put this on. And you will be going clockwise. And our 6 doesn't fit. Let's try the 4. And you'll see that our 4 screws on well. So we want to replace our particular one with this labeled 4. If you have a different model, you might need the 6. So let's go ahead and change this out with our number 4. Now, I may or may not need all these tools, but I got a hammer, a little hole punch, screwdriver, and then a little pry bar here. So go ahead and take this off and that off, set that aside. Now at this point, we've got our blue button, and this is kind of spring loaded, but it doesn't twist off or anything like that. We actually just have to pry this thing up. So we'll go ahead and use our pry bar. Don't worry about breaking it. It'll pop off. Let's do it another little bit. All right, there we go. So that just comes right over the top. Now there is our spring and our nut. Now we need to get these out, so I'm going to go ahead and just put this hole punch in here, and I can just try pushing on it. It worked there. If you need a little more force, go ahead and use your hammer. And we've popped that out now. Now we've got to get this spring off the old nut. I'm going to go ahead and just use a screwdriver here and just kind of pry that. And we've removed our spring. Now we'll go ahead and put our spring on our new nut. Just kind of have to force that in there. And we'll drop this back in. At that point, we'll put our little blue tap and go head back on. And that just gets pushed down. Snaps into place. Our string line there, the top of our head. And we're ready to put this on. Now to reattach our head for our 128C or our angled version, we'll go ahead and put this on correctly with that on the downside. And then this is going to turn clockwise to tighten. And we'll go ahead and kind of get that hand tight. We can throw on our channel grips, our channel locks, and just get that pretty hand tight. And there we go. Now, if we're reinstalling the head for our 128 LD or a model like that, we're actually going to do just a little bit of maintenance. You'll see that there's some old grease underneath here, as well as a little bit of grease on this. So I'm actually going to clean this out. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and clean it just because this thing's been used so much. And we're going to replace it with some new grease. So we'll just use a shop towel here, get this cleaned out. Again, kind of optional, but there's even just some grass clippings and stuff in here, so might as well. All right, I just have some high temperature kind of brake wheel bearing grease here. Really, whatever you got will work, but we'll go ahead and just put some new stuff on here. Just something to kind of lubricate this. Go ahead and put that around those gears too. I'm going to put a little on this as well. And now that we got this lubricated, we'll go ahead and put this head back on, starting with that piece right there. And we will put this on. Now to tighten this, you're actually going to go counterclockwise with this head. And we'll get it hand tightened. Then we're going to have to go ahead and put our screwdriver in here to get that to lock, and same deal. We'll just get it nice and hand snug, and we're good to go. All right, so we got our new head on. Let's go ahead and chat about how to properly put on our string line and what type of string line we should use. Now, the sizes should be no smaller than 0.095, and we've got some 0.105 here. You can actually go up to 0.106, but you don't want to go anything thicker than that. So anywhere in between these, you're going to be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and use some of this 0.095 stuff today, and I'm going to cut one piece, and the maximum length it can be is 19 feet 8 inches or 6 meters. I'm going to kind of ballpark it here. So we got ourselves about 6 feet there, 12, 18, and we'll give ourselves another foot. Go ahead and get that cut off here. Now we're going to go ahead and get our exact middle, so we'll just line up these ends. And that's going to be our starting point. All right, so we're at the midpoint of our 19 feet of string line. We take a look at the bottom here. It actually shows you which way you want to spool that. There's 2 places we could attach it on here. We'll go ahead and snap that in so it kind of holds it right in the middle. And then we're just going to start working our way down. Now, the important thing here is just not to go back and forth too much where you're overlapping. And we get down to the end, we should have about 6 to 8 inches on both sides. We'll go ahead and put this in here, and when I do, I'm going to lay my one side of string there, wind my top side around, put that in, and we'll get this thing snapped into place. We're good to go. So there you go, kids, step-by-step instructions on how to replace the tap and go head on your Husqvarna trimmer. Now I'll go ahead and leave a link to these replacement parts down in the description. And if this video helped you out, throw the world's greatest dad a little love, smash that thumbs up button. We'll see you next time.